What is the best grind for a knife, and why is it the hollow grind? We're going to look at that and more on today's episode of Knife AQ, episode 185 of the series where I answer all your questions, sharp or dull. All right, so welcome everyone to this Knife AQ. The deal is we answer your questions from the comments section below these videos. You guys always have some fun stuff to talk about, and it's the YouTube comment section, so sometimes it gets a little raunchy down there, or a little, raunchy is not the wrong word.
It's not an invitation. Yeah,
be nice. We got some good questions to answer today. First one comes from Graham Blackall, who we've featured a question on from before. He says, I have a buck canoe that I like very much. Due to its hollow grind, I can get it superbly sharp. However, the steel won't hold that edge for very long. Please, can you recommend another similarly deeply hollow ground knife with better edge retention? Thanks for the content and wisdom. Greetings from the UK. Here we go. Here we have the Buck Canoe. It is one of the Chinese imported inexpensive slip joints from Buck. It comes in about 26 bucks these days. And the steel on it is 420 J2, which quite honestly is about as basic as it can get as a knife steel these days. It's not even Buck's 420 HC, which they do get pretty darn good results out of that steel, but you don't usually see that on these very inexpensive imported slip joints. So let's talk about the hollow grind real quick and why it's so easy to get so sharp, or why it's one of the easiest knives or grinds to get, razor sharp. Some folks swear by a Scandi grind because you can lay the bevel of that Scandi grind on a stone and there's no guesswork in following the curve. But with a Scandi grind and with grinds that are thicker or potentially thicker behind the edge, you're actually abrading more metal when you do that sharpening than you would on a hollow grind. Because hollow grinds are so thin, they essentially scoop out like this. If you're viewing the blade head on like so, right there, Thomas, down the barrel shot.
Way to spike the lens.
On a hollow grind, there is less metal to grind away or sharpen away, it requires a little bit less effort. Now, is that universally true? No. If this blade stock were a lot thicker and it had a hollow grind and the thickness behind the edge was a little bit thicker, a thinner full flat ground edge with a thinner behind the edge geometry might be easier to sharpen. But if you eliminate all those other variables, keep everything else equal, the hollow grind requires a little bit less effort. The other thing, and the reason you see it on a lot of inexpensive knives, which is not to say it's a cheap shortcut or anything like that, but it is something that can be mass produced quite easily and quite inexpensively, because you can, with the type of wheels that these machines work on, you can actually grind both sides of the blade at the same time. If you're doing something with a flat grind, you can't do that. So that requires two passes, or almost twice the amount of time, machine time to create versus a hollow grind. It's also harder to do with particle steels too, especially the really high hardness ones. It's not impossible, but it requires a lot more specialized equipment to do it, which is another reason you see it, don't see it as much on the uber expensive knives. But anyway, all that aside, let's replace your canoe here, Graham. UK, so 3-inch blade and non-locking is pretty much where we have to sit. I do have some options for you here. The first of which is not going to set you back too much. I've got 4 here on the table. We're going to go from the least amount of improved edge retention to the most amount of improved edge retention. As I said, 420 J2 is about as basic as it gets. So the first knife here, while having a fairly inexpensive steel, a not necessarily premium steel, this is the Boker Plus Tech Tool 1 premium pocket knife. It's funny. Comes in about 49 bucks, and you've got Sandvik 12C27 steel right here, which is very good stuff, I think, especially on budget knives. Normally, it's not going to outclass much of anything in terms of edge retention, but compared to 420 J2, this is definitely a step up. And this, I think, has, vibes-wise at least, the most similarities to your canoe right here. I couldn't find anything that we carry that with multiple blades like your canoe that would kind of satisfy this, this conundrum. So unfortunately, we'll have to stick to single bladers right here. But yeah, these things have a really nice similar vibe. You've got a little bit more edge retention, 2 3/4 inch blade, full height hollow grind, high polished finish, Thomas's favorite,
Oh boy.
as has long been established. Decent enough action. You've got some modern conveniences like a, not reversible, tip up or tip down deep carry pocket clip, almost deep carry.
Flippable clip.
Flippable clip, flippy clippy, and a glass breaker here at the back. Do you want that? I don't know, but you can have it right here. You could take the pocket clip off if you don't want that as well. You've got synthetic material here. It is a canvas micarta, so it's not the natural wood, although actually this is kind of a wood laminate thing here too. So there's a lot of glue and resin in that bit of wood. This actually has a more natural feeling than the canoe right there, and it's quite a stable material as well. Stepping up a little bit more in edge retention, we've got the Civivi Trailblazer, which is discontinued at this point, but we still have some on the shelves, so I wanted to mention it. Again, just a sub 3-inch blade, a little bit more. We're hitting right out at that 3-inch mark. Let me make sure here real quick, make sure the website isn't lying to us. Yeah, it is just under 3 inches. 60 bucks right now, 14C28N steel from Sandvik. So a little bit more edge retention than the 12C27 at the expense of a little bit of toughness, but a very good steel. In fact, this and the similar steels to this, such as 13C26, AEBL, Nitro V, are definitely my favorite. It's my favorite family of non-particle steels out there, for sure. Trailblazer, 3-inch drop point blade, G10 handles, stainless steel bolsters, half stop on the action here, which is nice and satisfying. Easy to open with that broad blade cutout right there, and a single, no, it is reversible deep carry pocket clip, sorry, and a lanyard attachment point there. Let me just see, this is not really, in a pinch, you might be able to one hand open it, but it's not really conducive to that, I would say. Safety-wise, you do have the index finger guard here, which will keep your fingers from slipping forward a little accidentally, which could be nice too. And you do have a little bit of that with the canoe, so something to keep in mind. Next up, another from Civivi. And this is going to give you a very noticeable jump up in edge retention from your canoe, and that is the Appalachian Drifter, also at 60 bucks. So the same price as that Trailblazer, but with this you've got a particle steel, S35 VN. And one of the things Civivi does so well is their hollow ground knives. They're actually been moving, a lot of their newer releases have had flat ground blades, but especially a lot of their early stuff was all hollow ground. And the actual thickness behind the edge, they kept them nice and thin. So you've got a high edge retention steel right here with a very thin, very easy to sharpen edge. That is definitely going to be a nice thing. Micarta handles, deep carry clip, not reversible here. And this is the dual detent. Is it dual? Let me check. Yep, double detent style of non-locking. And it's actually flippable too. So you can, sorry, slipped out of my hand almost there. You can flick it open, so it's a lot quicker to access, and you can flick it closed too, which is also fun. Or you could do a deliberate one-hand open or continue to do a two-hand open like so. You don't have a drop point like you do on the canoe. You got a clip point here, but lots of edge retention for sure. Before I get to the last knife, that actually brings me to a point. While Civivi has moved a little bit away from some hollow ground blades, whereas allowing Sencut, their budgetist subsidiary, to pick up the slack on some of the hollow ground stuff, but they've got some flat ground stuff too. We've seen some folks like Artisan Cutlery and CJRB rather bringing hollow grinds back into or into their lineup instead of flat ground, which has been more common for them so far. Are we seeing a little bit of a flat or a hollow ground resurgence? I do to know. Last but not least, Jack Wolf. Huge leap in edge retention up here from your canoe. This is the sharpshooter jack, but you can pick pretty much any of their slip joints that come under 3 inches. The bullet points are going to be the same. We've got S90V steel on this knife with a really premium hand-rubbed finish. And that is the key word here. This is a very premium knife and a premium price, $300 right now. You've got Snowfire fat carbon inlays, which look very cool. You've got phenomenally satisfying walk and talk on that blade. And it's all traditional in its shape, but it's built modern with titanium, with screw-together construction, with that super steel as well. Definitely going to give you tons of edge retention and full height hollow grind as well. So yeah, hollow grinds are great for sharpening because you're fighting less metal. They're also going to keep that thinness behind the edge longer than a flat grind as you sharpen through the usable life of a blade. So there's advantages to that as well. On some designs, depending on how well they're done, that shoulder at the top can, introduce some friction towards the end of a cut. It all depends on what you're cutting and how thick the blade is to begin with in the first place. Hope that helps. All right, well now we're going to jump right into our measured once, cut twice segment where I'm actually responding to some things you folks brought up 2 weeks ago. This is the section where we take a second slice at some answers. The first was regarding the thin-handled, finger-safe locking style of knives that we were looking to replace this gentleman's Gerber Descent 2. A lot of folks recommended the Cold Steel Code 4, like Jim Short here. For a thin yet robust knife, I would recommend the Cold Steel Code 4. It has the triad backlock, but there's a lot of unsharpened blade edge at the scale, so you can very safely push the lock and flick the blade down and not worry about a cut. Yes, I know what you're talking about, but that is like the antithesis of what we call a finger-safe unlocking action. And maybe it's the name. Every time I bring up, the finger-safe locks, which if it's the first time you're hearing me mention it, what it essentially is. Do we have one on the table? No, of course we don't. I have one in my pocket though.
How bug out?
Yee. How about you don't hit the knives on the table? How about we show them something that they could actually buy right now instead of our old bug out? I'm carrying our Kaiser exclusive drop bear right now. A crossbar lock like Kaiser's clutch lock here. When you close the knife, your fingers never cross the path of the sharpened edge. And does that mean you can't close other knife mechanisms safely? Of course not. But it's just, we were trying to come up with a term on how to describe that type of thing because it's just one extra layer of protection between you and an accident because it's removing the potential for, an actual potential avenue for an accident to happen. And every time I bring up these, sometimes many people bring up backlock style knives. Yeah, like if you're right here and you do that and adjust your grip, your fingers are out of the way. But like, I can't disengage this without bringing my fingers around the front. So it completely derails or fails the definition as far as we're concerned. Is it the terminology? Should we come up with a different type of term for this? I don't know. I have been trying to make sure I say it's finger-safe closing action as opposed to a finger-safe lock because that would imply some other locks aren't safe. But I don't know. Anyway, a little bit of a tangent. So for all the folks that mentioned this as an option for our friend here who was looking specifically for a finger-safe lock, that's what he asked for, a finger-safe closing action lock. See, that's cumbersome.
Mind the gap lock.
Mind the gap lock. Why? Because Graham Blackall's British? You mind in the British mood? So no, this fails. It's a cool knife. It just didn't meet the criteria for the question. Sometimes when people come up with their alternate suggestions, they sometimes forget some of the criteria. Anyway, I'm kvetching now. Sorry. Pardon me. Anyway, this is a cool lock, or a cool knife, and it is a very thin knife and a very robust knife, but it doesn't have that finger-safe closing action that we were looking for, and it was also a bit bigger too. The knife we were looking to replace was about 4.5 inches in the pocket, so I was trying not to go beyond that. This is a 5-inch long closed knife. As good as it is, I just didn't feel like it was a very good answer for those reasons. Anyway, but thank you for everyone for your suggestions. Next up, we were talking about waterproof steels, or someone who sweated a lot. And, I know we call this, this series frequently asked questions. Sometimes the questions we've only gotten once, but they're fun to answer. But if there truly was a most frequently asked question top 10, some variation of this would be on it. You know, all the time we're getting folks who want like the most stainless thing they can get, because no matter what they do, they manage to rust their blades, this, that, and the other. So which is why it comes up all the time. And I've always, like, the easy, obvious answer is always Spyderco's Salt series, because they use the steels I mentioned in that episode, MagnaCut, LC200N, and H1, which is being replaced by H2. They're kind of the same thing. Don't come at me. They're more or less the same thing. And so that's why I mentioned it, not just because those steels work well, but also because the internals of the knife are equally engineered to be stain resistant. But Stuart Trollings, what's he doing? And a few others also said, how about Vanax for the rust resistant needs of that fella? Yes, that's a very good point. I did not mention Vanax. It is a high performance steel that is designed to be corrosion proof. We've got it here on this Wee knife. This is the Hyperactive, but it's hard to, two things. One, it's very hard to find that steel in the price range that our gentleman was looking for 2 weeks ago. And also, you know, it lacks the same internal waterproofing that those Salt series knives do. Just Spyderco does that thing better than anyone else out there. And that's not you know, take that for what you want. They, like, just on the face of it, they serve that need better than other things I've seen. Benchmade's Waterline that was introduced this year is kind of attempting to encroach on that, and we're gonna see with time how well they're doing, but that is another one you could take a look at. But most frequently asked question has a most frequent answer, and that's Spyderco Salt series. So, but a good point to all the Vanax folks, so there you go. All right, now we come to our next segment, which is called Damyr's Buried Treasure, where we're going through the alphabet and showcasing a brand from each letter that we haven't shown on the channel ever before. Been doing this for like 5 or 6 years now. And there are still things that haven't been shown because we got a lot of stuff. So today we're on the letter D, and that's what this stuff is over here. This is from the company Denix, and they make replica stuff. They make cool cannons. It's non-functional cannon. Don't.
Well, I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. I'm not going to put any like blasting caps or anything in there.
I'm downrange.
Yeah, you are. Watch your mouth.
I retract my statement.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of retracting, let's look at just. I brought a couple other things out because they do so many different cool stuff, and I've never even gotten them out of the box to look at, much less show them on the channel. This is a small medieval catapult they have here. I think it's pewter. It's metal construction according to the website. This is like 35 bucks, but this is actually a working catapult. Watch this. You got a little lever right there. Put something in there, like a little marshmallow or like marble or something. What can I launch at Thomas, actually? Do I have anything over here? I got a screw. Hold still. Well, that was disappointing. I'll say now I want to mod it. I want to put a little rubber bumper right here so it stops earlier and gets some more upward trajectory. But that's fun. It's kind of like desk accessories, right? The Canon is kind of the same thing. Would look great on a bookshelf. This is like 96 bucks. They make a lot of replica swords, and they make a bunch of letter openers as well. This is the Cavalry Saber letter opener. It's like 15 bucks. That's a lot of fun. And they make a lot of kind of prop firearm stuff too, like old school flintlock stuff. This is the 18th century Italian pirate flintlock model. $57 for this. And it has like mechanical functionality, but it's not actually, it doesn't do anything. But you can, yeah, got the strike plate there. It's fun. A lot of cool stuff. We'll leave a link to the brand page down there. You can check out all the fun things they do. That's Denix for today's buried treasure. Actually, ooh, pirate, buried treasure. Wasn't even thinking about that when I picked this one out. Anyway.
You need a bottle of rum.
What time is it? We gotta wait till after work. All right, now we come to our lightning round for today. Nut Leader says, my friend asked my dad why he always has a knife, and my dad said, what if I find a cheesecake? Listen, if you're going around and you just find a cheesecake, cutting into it wouldn't be the first thing I would consider. ask questions about that cheesecake, or just leave it alone.
It's a trap.
It's very possibly a trap. Don't trust a found cheesecake. Anyway, Brandon Lowe has the next question. If the best knife to have in a survival situation is the one you have on you, well-worn, well-trodden, survival axiom there for sure, then what's the best knife to have on you? I know you're trying to get around the crux of the question, but the best knife to have on you is the one that's easy to have on you. And that's going to guarantee you've got a knife on you if a survival situation becomes reality for you. For that reason, like a big burly survival knife might be the right choice for some people, but other people might not want to carry around such a thing most of the time. I tend to think like a 4 to 4.5 inch blade is a phenomenal size because it's big enough, it can be made sturdy enough, and it's still fairly easy to carry. And it gives me an opportunity to talk about one of my favorite new fixed blade releases this year, the new larger QSP Canaries. These are like $62. You've got a robust carbon steel blade. This one has burlap micarta handles with some speed holes there, give you some extra traction, nice filling grip, and the actual knife itself in this situation is only part of the equation. If a knife has to be easy to carry, to be carried when you need it, the sheath has to facilitate that easy carry. So something like this I think is very nice. Kydex, it's compact, doesn't take up a whole lot of belt space. It's adjustable so you can carry it a few different ways, giving you options, making it more convenient to you. So yeah, the best knife to have on you is the one that's easy to have on you. Don't make life more difficult. Now we come to our final question of the day, which is, of course, our most serious question of the day, which comes from Richard. I'm mispronouncing all kinds of things today. I don't know what's up. Richard Pugerman. Serious question. If you were a zombie, it's Friday afternoons were kind of brain dead around here.
And Monday mornings.
What knife would you choose to help enable your acquisition of human brains? You're probably expecting me to pull out the carcass splitter right now, but I'm not gonna. What you need, if you're a zombie and you want to make sure your sustenance is not brain dead, you need a melon tester, right? Like this right here. So easy. It's such an easy answer right there. And this is the Suzco Harvest Fruit Knife. It's a melon tester. Just because they don't say melon tester in the name, this is a melon tester knife. It's like $8. Everything a zombie needs to ensure their melons are going to be nice and nutritious, don't you think? Well, that's all we've got for today, folks. Make sure to keep your questions coming. Keep your most serious questions coming, too. It's always fun to try to find a new angle on some of those. If you want to get your hands on any of these knives or desk accessories, check out the links in the description, which will take you to KnifeCenter.com. And don't forget about our long-running Knife Rewards program, because the least thing we can do when you buy one of our knives today is give you some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera, and we are signing off. See you next time.
Carcass splitter is also too heavy for those atrophied muscles.
Yeah, it would kind of like increase the lumbering, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I assume they all have arthritis too.